Welcome everybody to your session with Dr. Laura Berman, world-renowned sex and relationship expert. She is the host of In the Bedroom with Dr. Laura Berman, which is about to premiere its second season on December 4th, so tune in. And now you're going to be like, oh yeah, my friend Dr. Laura Berman, so you got to watch. Okay, so now, who in this room couldn't use a little help with their sex and love life or relationships? Yes? Yes? Don't go, we got to keep your energy up, ladies and gentlemen. Who could use a little bit of help? Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Dr. Laura Berman helps us expand the language of love and all of its infinite possibilities. So please help me welcome the fabulous Dr. Laura Berman. You make me feel. You make me feel. You make me feel like a man.
Ready to talk about sex? All right. So I'm going to talk for a little bit, but what I most want to do and what I find to be the most helpful is to open it up to your questions, okay? So I'm going to talk for a little bit. And I'll keep talking. I could talk all day if you want me to. But then I'm going to open up to questions. It can be about you. It can be about someone you know, your neighbor, anyone you want, okay? But I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking first and kind of give you a whirlwind tour of what I see as the core of having a healthy, vibrant, best sex life and love life and romantic life that you possibly can. And then if questions are inspired by that or any other questions you have, I want you to feel free. But this is really, I want to focus on things that you can go home and do tonight, whether you have a partner or whether you don't. And I'll be talking some. All right, you guys have dirty minds. But healthy sexuality, healthy love is about having a healthy body. It's about having a creative spirit, and it's about having an open heart, okay? So let's start with the body. The body is easy, right? That's pretty concrete. Healthy body. Now, obviously, the obvious things apply, right? Healthy behavior, diet, exercise as an aside, just so you know, and this will make you happy. An Italian study came out that women who eat dark chocolate regularly have higher libidos than women who don't. So, but having a healthy diet, exercise, that's sort of common sense. But it's also about hormones. And as we age, women especially, and men, our hormones start to decline. Your doctor may talk to you about estrogen and progesterone, but you need to also know about testosterone, which is the hormone of desire. And obviously, aging can affect your hormones, but a lot of people don't realize that stress actually affects your hormones. When you're chronically stressed, and I think most people in this room probably are, most of us are, right? In fact, a gynecologist named Stuart Malloy once coined a term, the hurried woman syndrome. What are the symptoms? Low libido, trouble sleeping, weight gain. Describes most of us in today's world. And what happens is that when you're chronically stressed, it creates a hormonal cascade. So when you're stressed, we used to think that we all went into that fight-flight response that you learned about in high school biology, right? It turns out that women we now know go into something called tend and befriend, they're calling it. But basically what happens is that your oxytocin levels rise. That's the chemical of attachment that breastfeeding mothers release. It's what makes us want to curl up on the couch in our sweats and cuddle and eat chocolate. But the problem is that lowers your free circulating testosterone, that hormone of desire. The other secret culprit that lowers testosterone, ironically, is hormonal contraceptives. So it's really important to talk to your doctor and be aware of the hormonal pieces. And if anyone has questions after, when it's time to ask, please do. Please do. Now, the second piece is muscle strength. Okay? Now, when I'm talking about muscles, we've all heard about Kegels, right? Okay, you got to do your Kegels, several hundred a day. You can do them right now. And they should be, you should do like 100 of the quick release ones where you squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, and about 100 of the slower ones where you squeeze, hold, release. And guys, you can do it too. It helps with staying power, let's just say. It's good for men too. But your pelvic floor is not just your Kegels. Your pelvic floor is a floor of muscles that hold up all your reproductive organs. So it prevents things from falling down as we age. It prevents you from, many women complain that when they jump on the trampoline or play with their kids, there's a little surprise, as a result. So it helps with that, but it certainly helps with sexual response, and that's an important part. But so the transverse abdominals are not just the Kegels, which are those muscles I'm talking about. Everyone do one now. It's squeezing. So what you do, you relax the tush, squeeze in the front. Everyone's going. And if you're really strong, you can squeeze and release, right? You can squeeze in and up, in and back. And you can even squeeze, Oprah tried this once. You can even squeeze side to side. If you get really strong and control, everyone's like, but it's not, and it's also your transverse abdominals. And you know what? Another study just came out that walking around in high heels is good for your pelvic floor. It is. It may not be good for other things, but I'll show you why, okay? Now watch. I'm going to show you my 3 baby pooch. Okay, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but this is me totally relaxed, right? Now I'm not going to suck in my stomach. I'm going to tighten my transverse abdominals. I don't know if you'll be able to see because this is black. Can you see the pooch there? Okay, tell me if you see it go away. Okay, so what you're doing is you imagine almost like a girdle of muscles right here that you squeeze closed, almost like 2 tectonic plates. So if you're walking around and walking down the street and you're squeezing in your these transverse abdominals here, they strengthen your whole pelvic floor. You stand up straighter, your back is supported, and your stomach's flatter as a result, and it gets stronger and stronger. So you don't have to literally be sitting there consciously doing those exercises, but it's extremely important because sexual response is about blood flow and muscle strength from a physical standpoint, okay, and about hormones. Second piece is about a creative spirit. And I can't get through this conversation with you without mentioning 50 Shades of Grey. Yes. Who's a fan of 50 Shades of Grey here? Yes. Oh, admit it. More of you than that are fans of 50 Shades of Grey. So why is that such a cultural phenomenon? Why is that inspiring? And what's been fascinating to me about 50 Shades of Grey is not that it's, lots of things have inspired women's libido. But this is inspiring women to action. And that's what's interesting to me, because there are lots of things that create a little flutter and make you kind of think about it. But what I'm seeing is men coming up to me and saying, hey, she initiated for the first time in our entire married life. Wait a second, what's going on here? What's inspiring women to act? What is so powerful about this series? And I think there's several things. First of all, and that we can learn from it and apply to our lives. First of all, that we're learning to exercise our fantasy muscle. And many of us, maybe this series was the first time that we'd ever read or been exposed to erotica. I've been telling people for years that women enjoy erotica, pornography, whatever you want to call it, as much as men. There's just one difference. We like a plot. That's it. And so, right? And it's about the plot. It's about the context for us. And this becomes very important when you start thinking about the sexual relationship and what inspires men and women sexually, which we'll get to in a moment. But what's interesting about the kind of 50 Shades of Grey, you have the billionaire Christian who sort of has never been in love before, has only had dominant, submissive relationships. And then you have Anastasia, who's sort of inexperienced, has never really been out there sexually. And talking to as many women and understanding sexuality as I do and the way that our minds work, what's become very clear is that one of the things that's most erotic about this series is that not only the fantasy piece, not only the naughty playroom stuff, and we'll get to that too, don't worry, but it's also about the surrender. And this is what I'm hearing from women all the time. So many of us are alpha women, right? We are in charge of so much in our lives. We are working so hard. Many of us, whether we're working professionally in an office outside the home or just working on a million different committees outside the home, we're working hard outside and inside the home. And we're overtaxed and overstressed. and we don't know how to give up the control. We don't know how to let go and surrender. We're involved, and many of us are married to men who, in the beginning of our relationships, it was great because, he did whatever we said, right? So, we would go on vacation where we said, we'd pick out what he wore, we'd, be in control. But once the kids start coming, you start to see him as another kid, right? And it's one more thing you have to control. And so we don't want to control, but he doesn't know how to load the darn dishwasher. I told him 4 times where to put the plates, and he still does it wrong. So there's a frustration and a desire to let go of the control. And I think the fantasy with the Christian Grey character, look, it doesn't hurt that he's gorgeous and a billionaire, but the key is that she surrenders to him because he knows what he's doing, logistically, literally. He has her best interests at heart, and he's willing and ready to take control. And so what women are saying is, hey, how can I turn my man into Christian Grey? Besides getting him a helicopter and handing him $1 billion, the way that you turn him into Christian Grey is by surrendering. And one thing, if you're in a relationship like this where you want your man to step up, or you're in a relationship where you want more of that power, because what happens is you become more and more in charge of things just because you have to get things done. And this, by the way, happens to all of us, myself included. I came home recently and I called him ahead and I said, listen, do you mind just giving the kids a bath? Which he does all the time, my husband. I come home, it's about 10 minutes before they're supposed to be in bed, and they're taking a bath in their clothes. Sopping wet, huge grins on their faces, having a great time. And I feel myself, starting to clench my fists and get annoyed. And then I looked at their faces and I looked at my husband's face all proud. And I was like, you know what? Thank you for giving them a bath. Thank you. Because it doesn't, even though he didn't do it the way that I would have done it, even though I had to squeeze out those clothes and wash extra clothes that I may or may not have had to wash, even though the bathroom was a little bit more of a mess, there's only 2 things that men really want in a relationship. One is a partner who's going to be engaged with them sexually, and whether that's frequency, quality, whatever it is, and 2 is to feel like they're doing a good job in the relationship. Really, that's what we all want. And when we get stuck in these busy relationships, busy lives, and on the hamster wheel, our relationships start to suffer, and we start focusing more on what our partner's doing wrong than what they're doing right. And one of the things that I've found most powerful to do with couples, and it may be something you want to try, is to go on a surrender date. So you ladies who, like myself, I consider myself a recovering type A, so believe me, is to go on a surrender date where you let him make every decision, what you're going to wear, where you're going to go, how you're going to get there, what you're going to order, every single decision. You're already sweating, I know, at the mere thought of it, right? Just one night I'm asking for. But what you'll find is when you hand over the control, it's like a little Christian Grey moment. He will step up in ways you didn't imagine. He knows you better than you think. He's going to take that responsibility seriously, and he's not going to pick out the patent leather skirt that goes up to here, unless you like that. He's going to pick out something that you like to wear and something that you like to eat. And what you'll find is that he's much more capable of stepping up than you've given him credit for. And so that's how giving him the power, letting him take some of that control, not all of it, because there's a difference between control and power, right? You can have all the power you want. You don't have to have all the control. And so if you want some of that Christian Grey energy in your house, you have to make room for it. So the creative spirit is about not only exercising that fantasy muscle, but about making room for it in your relationship, and about the communication. Another thing that can be helpful to kind of incorporate that into your life is to try what I call the fantasy box, where both of you write down all the things you'd like to try with each other. It may be positions, it may be toys, it may be role plays, and make an agreement. Neither one of you are going to judge. You don't have to agree on everything. There may be some things that are just totally off limits. But you come up with a set of things after you've written them down and discussed them, a big set of little pieces of paper that you both would like to act out sometime or try out or do sometime, and then you put them all in a box. And from time to time, when you need a little spicing up, you just pull something out of the fantasy box. So it's really about, and then we also obviously have to talk about toys, which I can answer more questions about. I have to tell you that they're becoming more and more mainstream. I think the whole Christian Grey thing helped with that as well. And they're really not, it's not something that you have to go to a blacked out window in some funky little alley anymore to get. And it's also something that women are starting to take the reins of more and more, which excites me so much. It used to be, and I would hear this, I'd hear one of two things from women. One is that their partner went to the store and looked around and said, okay, I want to get my wife or girlfriend or whoever this, I'm going to pick out, it's usually the men that would buy it at the time, ages ago, or now it's changing. And he would say, well, what would I want if I were a woman? Big mistake. Because he would come home with the scariest looking thing she'd ever seen, and it wouldn't work. Or she'd get brave enough to go to a store and say, give me your best, toy, and she'd come home with something with 12 controls and bells and whistles and twirling things and have no idea how to work it. Well, there's a whole new world out there, and you can the comfort of your own home, you can go online with your partner, you can go to drugstore.com, amazon.com, your neighbors don't have to know where the package is, what's in the package or where it's coming from, you're not on any list, and you can start to explore these things, because I'll tell you this, that women over 40 need added stimulation. And women will sometimes say, well, I'm afraid my partner will be threatened by it. But I will tell you that while no human can compete with the machine, so to speak, in terms of the intensity or the frequency, I can promise you, especially for women, our main sexual organ is our brain. It's the context that stimulates the arousal. It's the relationship that stimulates the desire. And a toy can't keep her warm, can't comfort her about her day, can't cuddle her. There's no way that a partner is going to be replaced by that. But sometimes a little added stimulation goes a long way. So the creative spirit becomes really important, especially in long-term relationships, in keeping the passion alive and continuing the communication and exploring new frontiers together. Because monogamy for life nowadays is a very long time. When monogamy for life is invented, we didn't live past our reproductive years. Most of us were goners by the time we were 35, 40. Now we're living, I think the expected lifespan I recently read for our kids is over 100 years old. So monogamy for life is going to be a very long time. The next thing I want to talk to you about is an open heart. And to me, we can talk about logistics of sex. We can talk about the details of it. It's the main piece of it is your heart. All of our energy comes through the same channel. All of our feelings, love, joy, sadness, fear, anger, passion, all comes through. And there's an amazing book I highly recommend called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's a great book. But he talks about something called the samskara. It's a Sanskrit term, which is about unfinished energy. And what happens is that in our life, whether it's because of serious traumas like abuse, whether it's because of repressive homes that we grew up in, whether it's because of negative messages we got about ourselves, who we are as human beings, or how capable and worthy of love we are, we get these heart memories, is what they kind of consider it like. And it creates a psychological shield between you and your partner, and you and your loved ones. And so that samskara, so to speak, gets triggered. And what's important to know, and this is one of the most fundamental things to know about your relationship, is that every feeling you have is generated by a thought. And every thought you have is completely arguable. It is just as possible that the opposite is true. You're interpreting your partner or your loved one's actions, words, deeds, through your thoughts. Your thoughts are being filtered by your past life experiences. There's a great line in one of the songs from Rent, that musical, I'm looking for someone whose baggage goes with mine. That's one of the most fascinating things for me when I'm doing couples therapy. It's magical to me how every single couple that comes into my office with issues, with pain, with crises, with stories between them, their baggage matches perfectly, because we choose people who are going to trigger our stuff and who we want to learn from. And so when I talk about opening your heart and releasing those samskaras, so to speak, that the key is in being brave enough to open your heart despite the stories you're telling yourself. And so it literally is a feeling. So I want you to just try something with me right now. I want you to close your eyes and think about that special someone in your life, even if you're not in a relationship, someone close to you. And think about a moment where you were triggered, right? Something they do, maybe they often do, something they say or often say that makes your heart close. And you know what I'm talking about, that closing, okay? So get a picture of that. Feel your heart close and constrict. And now, without having any thought or any interpretation or any justification, I want you to imagine your heart opening like a flower. I want you to imagine things in your chest becoming expansive and filling with light. Because energetically, that's what we have the power to do. Do you feel that? You can do that, and I can tell you, I do it in my relationships 20 times a day at least. Because we're getting triggered, when you start to put your attention on it, you'll see that your heart is closing constantly. That's its go-to place. Those samskaras, as they say, are in there, right? And they're getting triggered. And all you have to do, the second, because think about how you feel about that person when your heart opens to them. And they've proven this scientifically, that we unconsciously mirror each other. I'm thinking something about you right now unconsciously. I may not even be aware of it. And you're feeling it and sensing it. And it reflects back in your feelings toward me. And when you are looking at your partner across the dinner table and they're chomping their food, or they're home late one more time, or they're doing something annoying, you may not say anything. But they feel your heart energy, and you have a choice every moment of the day to open yourself up. And when you do that, it opens the channels. It opens the channels of the love, of the joy, and especially of the sexual energy. Someone was asking me earlier, one of the attendees, what do I do because my husband every night, right before we're going to have sex, makes me mad, says something that just sets me off. And that's a perfect example. You have a choice in that moment, right? You can concentrate on what he's saying and be angry about that. Or you can let your heart open. And when you let your heart open, you see the man you love. You see the larger relationship. You see the story of who this person is. You're no longer interpreting and finding one more thing, one more piece of evidence for your negative story about him or her. You're opening your heart and you're seeing the bigger picture. And then it's no problem to want to have sex with them, right? But if you're stuck with your heart closed, that isn't available to you. And it's also about learning to speak your partner's language of love. Because we all try automatically to love our partner the way we want to be loved. And they're showing this in some of the, it's a little stereotypical, so you'll have to bear with me, but if we're talking in generalizations, it's true. This is one of the reasons they found that men who do housework get more sex. Scientifically proven, people, just so you know, you can use that. But if you, the reason for that is because if you, when he does, when he's helping around the house, it's a sign that he gets it. It's a sign that he sees how hard she's working, that he knows the nest is important, that he's trying to help, and that makes her heart open to him. That makes her feel connected to him, right? Another thing that we find, and this has been shown, is that men achieve a sense of emotional intimacy and closeness through the physical act of sex. So if she's too stressed for sex, is too distracted, is all the reasons, whether it's medical reasons, hormonal reasons, stressed, tired, busy, all the reasons that we have for lowering libidos, and we put sex on the back burner, he doesn't have that means to feel connected, romantic, close to her. She eventually says, you know, you never send me those sweet romantic texts anymore. We never really talk anymore. You're not romantic anymore. If he's at all connected, might say, well, you know, we haven't had sex in X amount of time. And she says, you jerk, you're only going to be nice to me if I have sex with you. But what he's saying is, I don't have a means to feel close to you. So there's a yin and a yang to life, and certainly in relationships. And it's about learning what nurtures your partner and focusing, if you're going to be in a long-term relationship, focusing on nurturing them in a way that lands. And everyone's different, right? So these are some generalizations. But when we stop trying to love our partner the way we want to be loved, focus and learn what makes them feel loved, share what makes us feel loved, open our hearts and start trying to connect with them on that level, then amazing things happen. And if you just try these things, okay? I want you to make a commitment for 2 weeks. I want you to give your partner 3 genuine expressions of appreciation a day. It could be for things they always do, but you just say, you know what, thank you so much for taking the garbage out. It's cold outside and I hate doing it, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate that you do that. Or that shirt really brings out the beautiful color of your eyes. Just 3 appreciations a day, okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is make an appointment 2 times a week to spend 15 minutes, no technology other than music, okay? I'm only asking for 30 minutes a week, 15 minutes kissing and cuddling and talking with sex completely off the table. No sex, okay? Because most couples don't talk more than 15 minutes a week about things other than the logistics of their lives. And most women will tell me that the thing that they miss most in their love life and in their relationship is kissing. They only get kissed when their partner wants to have sex or during sex, and it's a huge libido enhancer for women. And when we take sex off the table and that pressure isn't there, and we can build our sensual energy through kissing and cuddling and connecting, it really inspires sexual libido, especially in women, okay? And I also want you to make a commitment to having sex at least once a week, preferably twice. More even better. I'm talking about bare minimums. And not to let it go more than 2 weeks, except during the worst of times. Crisis, death in the family, illness, right? But don't let it go more than 2 weeks, because that is the fuel that connects you. Can you have a long-term relationship that is lovely and loving without sex? Sure. But there's an intimacy, a vibrancy, a connection, a richness that has to have the sexual connection in it, that comes with the sexual connection that just isn't there. When sex is working in a relationship, it is a small part of the larger working relationship. But when it's not working, it can start to take on a life of its own and fray the fiber of your connection. So it's really about letting go of your fear and opening your heart not only to your partner, but to yourself, and giving yourself permission to learn about your own body, to embrace your sexuality and who you are as a powerful sexual being. We come into the world beautiful sexual beings, and it kind of just gets conditioned out of us, but it's still in there. That sexual god or goddess is in there waiting to come out. So your job is about releasing it and finding the creative inspiration, finding the communication, and opening your heart in order to receive it and give it, okay? So there's your little, I'll keep going if you want, but I want to open it up to questions as well. Anyone brave enough? About your neighbor, about your friend? Yes, back there.
Hi, my name is Sky, and you had it was point 2 where you said to take 2 15-minute non-sexual sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Besides the time, to have and how to get my husband to want to, what do we talk about?
Oh, I love that you asked that question. I love that. Yes, thank you for asking that, because that's what so often couples will say to me, like, what the hell do we talk about? And that in and of itself is so powerful to know that. That's the biggest reason why you have to do it, okay? And I'll tell you that I will sometimes make notes for couples, like here's a list of things you can talk about. Just make little topics of conversation so you can talk about, here are some great ideas, okay, that I find work really well. A vacation that you still love to go on. Where you see yourself in 10 years. You may have been with that person for 30 years, but you haven't had that conversation since you were in your 20s, right? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What are 5 things I do that make you feel loved? What are 5 things that you love about me and I love about you? Let's write them down, talk about them. Not about the logistics of your life, not about the kids, right? There's you know those cubes, you see them, they're called the conversation starters, right? They have them for kids, for family, for dinner. You know, get one of them. I think they even make a couples one. Pull one out if you have to. It doesn't really matter. It can be awkward at first. You can just sit there quietly and kiss and cuddle. You can do a kissing exercise where you say, okay, I'm going to kiss you the way I most love to be kissed for a few minutes, and you just kiss me back that way. And then I want you to kiss me the way you most love to be kissed. And let's just kiss that way for a while. And then let's just make out. You would be surprised. I have couples who've been together 30, 40, 50 years and had no idea that their partner liked to be kissed that way. Oh my gosh, you know, he likes deep tongue, or she doesn't like it, or whatever. You'll learn something new about each other. And I can't tell you how many couples have come into my office where she has 0 desire. And as soon as I take sex off the table, you are not allowed to have sex until further notice. We're going to rebuild your sex life from the ground up. There's too much stuff mixed in with it now, too many, you know, confusing variables. No sex. All I want you to do tonight is spend time kissing. You haven't had sex in a month? That's okay. You're not going to have sex anymore. And she's like, phew. And he's, you know, what I come in here, doctor's supposed to help me with my sex life. They come in the next day, looking all sheepish because they cheated. And I have to act annoyed. But once that pressure is off, you know, once that pressure is off and she doesn't have the pressure of sex, that's the irony, and men don't always get, you know, like, what? Like, don't, you know, says take sex off the table and then she's gonna want sex, but it's making room for the sensual energy to build. And I can tell you that, that you're not alone. I mean, this is the thing, is that most of us don't talk to each other anymore. We get so stuck in our busy lives and our busy logistics, and the only conversations we have is just about keeping things going. And we lose ourselves and each other in the process. Yes? Go for it.
I apologize to my mom and my mother-in-law. I'm apologizing to my mom and my mother-in-law. They're sitting next to me.
Oh, yay!
And my sister.
Listen, we all have the same question. Don't worry.
I actually have a husband who's quite good at oral sex.
Mm-hmm. Oh, a proud moment for his mother. You raised him well.
I'm so sorry. I would like to be more comfortable with it, but I guess I've had some kind of uncomfortable experiences with it in my past, and he's on my case to do it often. I would like...
Women are like, can I have his number? You know, you want to be more comfortable with it.
I would like to be more comfortable, but I get so nervous when he's down there. I have the microphone guy even laughing at me.
You know what? You're so not alone. Let me just ask you: is the nervousness? Because I won't put you on the spot anymore. I'll just talk about the kind of nervousness.
I'm already out there putting you on the spot.
All right. So here are the kind of nervous. What you're talking about is extremely common. In fact, I've done national research on genital self-image in women. It's a huge issue. Worrying about appearance, odor, whatever it is, and I think so. There's that concern. And the number one predictor, first of all, if you have poor genital self-image, you're 6 to 10 times less likely to be able to reach orgasm and enjoy sex than if you have a positive genital self-image. So that's part of it, is that, and the most significant predictor for poor genital self-image is some jerky partner back then saying something obnoxious, right? I'll never forget the woman who told me I'll freak out about this vaginal rejuvenation thing that you hear about, and I know we're in LA, you are all forbidden to do it if you're thinking about it, okay? It's that tightening and rejuvenating the vagina, making it tight, sewing it up. It ruins the integrity. You're cutting nerves and blood vessels that are central to your function. And I'll never forget the woman who came into my office with could not have sex, such excruciating pain after she'd had one of these procedures. And I said, so why did you do it? And she said, because my partner told me that I was too loose. And I said, well, had it ever occurred to you that he's too small? But it's a potential, the vagina is a potential space. Those muscle exercises I'm talking about, you use that to squeeze. But I know that's aside, okay? So the reason we're uncomfortable with that is because we're worried that it's unpleasant for him or her, when they're down there. So that's the first reason. The second reason, which I get the sense is probably maybe more about what you're about, is that, and this is probably across the board in your life, this is one of the epidemics that we as women face, and one of the reasons that our sex lives and our health suffers is that we have a really hard time laying back and receiving without doing anything in return. We have a really hard time receiving in our life, right? And we have and oral sex, without being in the middle of returning or doing something back, right? Oral sex is the ultimate receiving. And you start worrying, it's taken a long time, he's been down there a long time, and nothing's happening, and, right? And then it takes even longer because you're anxious about it. And I think what he's doing, and the reason he's pressuring you to do it, is because he wants to give you a gift. This is a way that he's trying to express his love to you. And it's really about letting go, right? And opening your heart. So what I encourage you to do is when you're lying there and starting to have those thoughts, that's about you closing your heart to yourself. And so it's try that exercise of opening it up and believing and trusting that he's there because he wants to be. And if he doesn't, he'll exit. Yeah? Yes. We have another question here, if anyone has a mic. Oh, sorry, we'll get back there too in a minute. It's hard for me to see.
My question is going to be such a damper.
Oh, nothing's damper.
So, I am having trouble being inspired. So I want lots of sex, kinky sex, like 50 Shades. And good with everything, but just having problems being inspired by my spouse, like wanting it from him. So, like, and he does the surrender date, like he did that and does that frequently, like does
What isn't inspiring you? What is it?
I don't know. I just don't. I don't know if I don't like the delivery of it. Like, it does not inspire in a way that speaks personally to me.
Yeah. So what it sounds like, and this is where two things it happens. So what it sounds like is in a general sense what you're looking for. Okay, you know exactly, but the delivery isn't coming through, right? He's not able to deliver it, or you're not open to him delivering it.
I think I'm not open to him delivering.
Okay, well that's really that's beautiful. I appreciate that, because that's really important to know. And there are probably, I could give you a million reasons, right? Different reasons. I don't know you and your story personally. Why you aren't, what we're talking about again is you're not open to receiving from him. God bless you. You know specifically what you want, which a lot of people don't know. You can get the techniques and the details. You can buy my book or anyone else's book and get the details, read 50 Shades, let him read it, get the details of the specifics of what you want. Sometimes women will say, he can't necessarily deliver. I remember this woman saying she was trying to, her man is like this sweet, affectionate, loving, kind of nurturing guy, and she was trying to tell him that in the bedroom she sometimes wanted him to just throw her down and like be really aggressive. And he's like, well, what do you mean? Like, what should I say? And she's like, I don't know. Say something like, what's my name? Or, something like that. So they're having sex, and he's trying it, and he's like, what's your name? She's like, oh, that wasn't it. So sometimes it's the delivery. Sometimes it's something inside yourself that's close to him, and sometimes it's the larger relationship. But what we're talking about, this isn't about sex. This is about your connection and your larger relationship and what's happening outside the bedroom that's keeping you open to receiving from him. So that's a couples issue, all right? That takes some soul searching, some exploring, and maybe some therapy in order to figure that out. It certainly can be repaired and can be figured out. But that's where your work is going to be, because until you feel that connection, you're not going to be open to receiving. Back there, we have a question. Thank you for that applause.
I truly love and respect my mother-in-law, and she was going to move from the East Coast to San Diego, where we live. So I said to my husband, we need marriage counseling. We need to know how to handle this.
Right.
So he was very much against it, typical guy. We don't need it, we're fine. But he went, and when we got there, boy, did we talk about other things besides my mother-in-law. Mm-hmm. And our marriage now is better than ever. And I'm wondering what you can tell the audience about people going to marriage counseling when they don't think they need it, because I think people go when it's too late, and it makes me sad.
Yeah, thank you for that. Listen, you're preaching to the choir here, but I can tell you, and I've noticed a shift. I absolutely have, because I've been doing this for over 20 years. And in the beginning, when people came to see me, and it's still sometimes the case, their relationship is major crisis. They're about to get divorced. This is the final straw. If you can't help us, then we're done, right? And that still sometimes happens. But I am seeing a trend where now that a lot of the taboo societally has been lifted, it's not just crazy people who need therapy, which was really the belief for so many years. Many couples are coming forward, not just with me, but with therapy in general, wanting to just build better intimacy before things get too hard. And I applaud you. What you were saying is you were getting ahead of a problem. You saw a potential trigger coming to town, literally, and so you got ahead of it. And I think that's wonderful. I think you have to. It's a relationship. Maintaining a healthy relationship is the hardest job there is. It takes constant work. Anyone who tells you that a really good relationship shouldn't be work is an idiot, okay? It is a lot of work. The natural course of a relationship constantly is to get off course, because you take your hands off the wheel. You're no longer driving, you're busy, you're distracted, you get complacent, you get tired. You have to constantly be bringing it back to center. You have to nurture it like a living, breathing thing. And therapy, and whether you don't have to go constantly like Woody Allen for the next 20 years, 5 times a week, but if you see a therapist for a specific problem or with a specific goal, or if you just go intermittently and get little boosters from time to time, it can be extremely powerful, because none of us come with a manual on how to communicate, how to get our needs met, how to deal with conflict, and we just do what we saw growing up, which isn't necessarily the most functional and healthy thing, even if we came from otherwise healthy families. So learning the skills, just like you learn how to diaper a baby and how to raise children in many ways, you have to learn how to be in a relationship. There's a question here. Wait, there's someone, okay. And then back there. I'll repeat it. Mm-hmm.
With our adolescent females, teenagers, our daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Can you briefly talk, you've addressed that in the past, about how...
about raising sexually healthy daughters?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Sexually healthy daughters, you want to, from a very early age, not teaching them about sex per se, but for boys and girls, teaching them to feel good about their bodies, comfortable. You know, this is your elbow, this is your nose, this is your vulva. It's not a vajayjay, God bless Oprah, and she knows this now. It's a vulva, okay? You got to use it you have to use the correct terminology. And you have to teach, I mean, it's an ongoing conversation. It's not at all one talk. You use teachable moments in the media. You use the celebrities they're watching. You use the television shows they're watching. You watch them with them. You ask them questions. What do you think about that? Do you know anyone who's doing that? You get their opinions, but the message is that your sexuality, you know, what you have to do as a parent is think, I don't want my kid to have sex anytime soon, but if I could design the ideal first sexual experience for them, who would it be with and what would it be like? And that becomes the context for all of your conversations. So every time you talk to them, you say, when you are blah, when you're married, when you're sure you only, you know, when you're with someone where you only want to be with each other, when you're 50 years old, I mean, you know, insert your own values there. But you always wrap that context around it, and you teach them that sex is a gift. It's a beautiful, magical, fulfilling gift that the first time and every time. And it's really about deciding who deserves that gift more than anything else. Over here, you have these poor people haven't gotten any questions. Sorry, guys.
They
sorry.
told me to try to get your attention.
Yes, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
So I'm wondering how to deal with some of the things. Well, let me say, I believe that we have a lot of control over our lives. How do you deal with some of the things that affect your relationships that you might not have as much control over? Example, hormones, fertility medications, hormones.
Right.
Hormones.
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 Yeah, and fertility is a big one that will throw your relationship into a potential tailspin. And these are the stuff that life is made of. Those forks in the road where how you handle it as a couple, you know, these things make or break. It really show what you're made of. And you can come out the other end because every relationship is filled with your life issues, right? That affect your quality of life, that affect your sexual intimacy, that affect your emotional intimacy, and it's about how you navigate through those. So you can't avoid them, but this is one, as we were saying before, this is one place where getting the right support as you're going through them is so important because and this is what I say to people about affairs. I mean, if you have someone who's a serial cheater, that's one thing, but I absolutely believe you can repair after an affair. And not that I endorse affairs because I don't, but I can tell you that more often than not, if you do the work on your relationship when an affair has happened and you both are willing to do that work, you will come out the other end with a significantly better relationship than you would have had that affair ever not happened. And the Chinese word for crisis is opportunity for a reason, because all of these horrible, annoying things that can negatively affect you physically and emotionally in your life together and individually are all what I call AFGEs, another growth experience, right? It's an opportunity to make your relationship even stronger. It's just how you go through it, how you communicate, and the support you get while you're doing it. Oh, sorry, okay, here and then here. Sorry, I'm a bad question pointer.
Hi, I'm a firm believer in lovemaking, not per se sex.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, as far as foreplay, because I believe for lovemaking to take place, you have to have foreplay.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, what are some pointers that you could give with non-physical foreplay? Because I don't believe that foreplay begins in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
So I want both sides. What can a woman do during the day to initiate to the spouse and vice versa?
Well, it's all about seduction, right? That's what you're talking about. And seduction is kind of in the eye of the beholder, right? It's what arouses you, what makes you feel loved, what makes you feel seen. But the themes are about, I'm thinking about you, you turn me on, and you inspire me. Right? So that can be in the form of texts. It can be in the form of messages. It can be in the form of, you know, just like a 10-second kiss when you leave in the morning and when you come home at the end of the day. So, I mean, I could give you a long list of, you know, more graphic things we could do, but it's really, I mean, you want this. It really is about, you know, thinking about, I'll say that for the most part, I mean, women are visual too, but we're really, and this is one of the reasons Shades of Grey is so popular, it's contextual. We like to imagine it ourselves more. men are very visual. You know, we evolved as hunters and gatherers, so men will typically respond more to like the photographs, the visual graphic descriptions. Not that women don't mind that, but women are more, I'm thinking about you, you really turn me on, I want to do this to you later. Men enjoy that too, but if we're talking about generalizations, those would be the categories. Yes?
Me and my partner have talked about open relationship or open communication, have you? And you know, one of the things is like us being able to have passcodes to each other's phones and emails and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like it backfires on me so much because he doesn't understand the text messages I send to my best friend about him or anything that I'm going through. And I wonder if I'm really setting myself up, is this something that just doesn't really work or what?
Yeah, okay, so okay, good question. First of all, I'm of the opinion that if you're in a monogamous relationship, there should be all your passwords and email accounts and text accounts are open book. You should have each other's passwords, you should have each other's codes, you should have each other's accounts, okay? But that does not mean that you check them constantly, right? Or check them at all. For instance, I have all of my husband's stuff. I have never once, I mean, maybe I should have, but I've never once checked his, and I don't think he's checked mine, although he might have. But, you know, it's sort of like what they say about nanny cams. Even if you have an amazing babysitter, if you watch the nanny cam, you're probably not going to be happy with something you see. You know, and it's the same thing. So what I think the problem is not that you're sharing each other's passwords, but there is and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but there's a level of suspicion or uncertainty that is making him check too much, where you're going to see things that are out of context and that don't make sense. And so that's a larger trust issue and communication issue in the relationship, because you do have to have room to vent and say a snarky thing from time to time to your girlfriends. And he has to make room for you to have the privacy to do that. Just because you have each other's passwords doesn't mean you don't have privacy, if you know what I mean. All right. I think they're making me, I want to answer all your questions, but I'm out of time. Do I have to stop? There's a big 0 blinking in front of me. But, all right, really quick, that beautiful red hat I can't say no to. She's been, just shout it out to me. I'll repeat it.
Okay, my name is Shanda from Seattle, Washington, and I had a lot of big things. Oh, hi. And I had a whole bunch of things happen to me this year. Like, I'm getting my first red hat because I turned 50 in September.
Yeah.
All 3 of my daughters are at college. I'm an empty nester, and I'm also single. So, in a nutshell, since you have all these zeros in front of you, what kind of advice would you say if you were in my shoes?
I would say wear that red hat loud and proud, because you have, what you're talking about is an opportunity to totally redefine your life. You've got an empty nest, so you don't have to worry about kids at home and taking care of them anymore. You have an empty bed, which means you can fill it with whoever you want, you know? And you have a chance to totally redefine who you are as a sexual being, and we all have that chance. You know, we don't have to believe the story of our lives we've been told. You are not the same person today that you were the first time you had sex, and you're not the same person today that you're gonna be 5 years down the line. And there's always the opportunity to reinvent yourself, rediscover yourself, and redefine who you want to be as a sexual person. All it requires is the bravery to be fearless about it, to open your heart, to let go of the judgments, which are all stories we've been telling ourselves. Aunt Sally told me that when I was 10, and I've somehow internalized it as some samskara there, you know, that's affecting the way I feel about myself. Think about what those messages are, and make the commitment to release them, because there is no wrong or right. All right? God bless you all.